Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us here on Parenting Playbook with Maureen Kyle on Fox 8 CLE+. I'm going to try and keep my elbows off the table for this next conversation. 'Tis the season. We are in the high season of holiday parties, of formal dinners, perhaps, gift giving, gift receiving. There's a lot of etiquette rules that go into the holidays. And even if you don't adhere to all of them, it's a great time to practice proper manners with your own family and teaching your kids proper manners. There's a million opportunities, and we're going to talk about them today. My expert today is an etiquette coach, Colleen Harding. Colleen, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
This season, do you think that, was I correct in saying that it is kind of the high season for proper etiquette and using our manners?
Absolutely. Only because we socialize more in the next 30 days than we do all year.
There's so many parties, there are so many opportunities, and I always like to see this as an opportunity to teach my kids the proper ways and polite ways of interacting, and especially with all the gifting. We're going to get to a ton of it. But in general, as we're heading into these holiday parties, what do you think is the number one question people have when it comes to etiquette?
Well, I think there's a lot of questions depending on where you're going. I mean, if you're going to someone's home for a social event, what's the format? You know, what, not the format per se, but like what kind of an environment is it going to be? Is it more formal? Is it casual? You know, don't overdress, don't underdress. You know, what do you bring? You know, how do you show up and show gratitude? You know, there's all kinds of ways to treat someone's home, and everybody's unique. So I'll give you an example. Everyone thinks they're supposed to take their shoes off when they come into someone's home.
That's a big one.
I know. But it's protocol to ask. Only because there are some people who have hardwood floors and they don't want you to take your shoes off because then you leave sweaty footprints all over their hardwood. So the best thing to do is actually ask, would you like us to remove our shoes? So there's a million things like that that you have to consider when you think about where you're going and what that person needs to feel when you come in, you know, in order to feel comfortable having you.
Right. Let's continue this part with as a guest, kind of from the perspective as a guest, since you brought it up. And I think no shoes is always a little bit controversial because some people don't want to take off their shoes. Some people, you know, feel like that's bringing germs in the house or scratching up the floors or anything. If you are a guest in someone's home, is it your responsibility to ask, should I take my shoes off? And how do you prepare for that, too?
Absolutely. As a guest, you should ask. Because if the homeowners were to say it, it would come off as a little abrasive. You know, take off your shoes. I mean, you could do that if it was that kind of a relationship, but it might come off as a little bossy or like a little unhospitable if you don't know the people that well. So the best thing to do is, as a guest, to say, would you like us to remove our shoes? And then you give them the opportunity to say, yes, please take off your shoes, or no, please don't. The other thing is that, you know, some people, depending on the situation or the time of year or could have really strong-smelling feet. And if you take off your shoes, sometimes it can be a little less than favorable.
So should we be prepared with, I'm thinking even right now I'm in heels, and so I'm not wearing socks with my shoes.
Right.
Do we come prepared with socks in a bag, slippers, or something in case a host does tell us to take off shoes?
I don't think it's necessary to go to that length unless you know them really well, in which you could say, would you like us to bring something to put on when we come in, you know, whatever. If it's a really informal, casual environment where everyone's wearing flannels and jeans and sweatpants and stuff, absolutely you could ask if that'd be okay. But if people are going to be dressed up because it's holiday, I don't think you need to do that.
No. What about gifting? I think a lot of people always wonder, I'm invited to a holiday party, even if it is my close relative. Do you bring a gift?
Always.
Always. That's a hard and fast rule. Always.
Always. Without hesitation, you do not show up empty-handed.
So what if you're bringing a dish? Do you also bring a gift?
No.
Okay.
You don't have to. So when you speak to the hostess or host, you say, would you like me to bring a dish? Can I bring something to complement the meal? Would you like me to bring dessert? Would you like me to bring a salad? What can I bring? Anything like that. If they say, no, don't bring anything, that's an invitation to bring a gift. Then you grab a bottle of wine, you grab a candle, you grab a bouquet of flowers, you grab anything that allows you to carry something in, you see, because that shows and demonstrates appreciation for the invitation. Because when we entertain, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So showing up empty-handed basically is kind of a way of saying that you're not really thinking about how much work they went to. You just want a meal, you see, and it sends a bad message. So you always show up with something.
What are your favorite host or hostess gifts? Because a lot of people get confused on what to bring.
Sure. I actually don't know if I have a favorite. However, it's always nice when somebody says, can I bring a salad? Because you're planning the main, and you're planning, the table arrangements and the setting, and you want the environment to be welcoming and cozy and all that good stuff. So when someone takes a responsibility off your plate, so to speak, it's like, oh, that's so wonderful. Thank you so much. I would love that. Or if they offer to bring dessert, that now you don't have to think about what you're going to serve that would complement what you served and things. It's like so nice, to have somebody do that. It's wonderful.
Let's talk about being at the party. You're the guest at the party. A lot of us are going to be bringing kids as guests at the party. How do you prepare your kids to go into somebody else's home and be a guest?
Okay. Well, depending on the relationship. If this is an aunt or an uncle, or somebody like that, they already know your children, and I'm sure there's protocols that they already have, understood and know what to do and what not to do. Most of the time, if you're at a relative's, your kids run in the house and they go down in the basement and find the fun. That's pretty much it. But it is a really good idea to introduce, use may, ask to be excused from the table, ask for things to be passed. Take a portion that allows everybody to have some. Don't pile it on your plate, and have it not be enough for everybody there, Look somebody in the eyes when you speak to them. Say, thank you so much for having me, or something like that. This is the next generation, and if we can start introducing them to how to be polite, how to get invited back, and things like that. It's a win-win for everybody because the person who made the meal feels appreciated, and then the young people know next, going forward what they need to do. When I train, when I do my kids' trainings and things, I said you always introduce yourself to the parents, and you say thank you for having me, or anything like that, because that's the person that's responsible for you having a good snack and you being able to play your electronic games and, you having a great time. And when you fly past them and you don't introduce yourself or say hello or thank you, it's very rude because they want to know who's in their house. They want to know who's playing with their children. Know? So you have to always introduce yourself and say thank you.
Let's talk about device rules too.
Ooh.
Because as a host, and we'll get
right
into
in there.
We're gonna, right? And I'll talk about hosting in a second, but as a guest, and bringing my kids into, I just got into this conversation with another friend, which is why I'm bringing this up. Do we set our own parameters? Is this an opportunity to teach our kids device rules at a holiday gathering, at a party, at a dinner party?
Okay, so I will tell you, this sounds really bad, but adults are worse than kids. That just sounds really bad, but
you're not
it
wrong.
is true.
Sometimes they are.
Kids emulate what their parents do. So if kids are sitting at the table on their devices, it's because they see their parents doing it. All right. So if you really want to enjoy, a meal or a celebration that creates memories, you put a basket at your front door and you say, just for 2 hours, let's just visit. Let's just talk. Let's not take phones to the table. Now, I realize there are a bunch of people watching this right now going, not a chance. However, do you really want your memories to be of sitting around a table where somebody worked really, really hard to create a wonderful environment and everyone's sat on their phones finding out what everybody else is doing? Or do you really want to engage and, create an environment that's special at that moment for your family. No one's ever going to go to their grave saying, wow, I wish I spent more time at holiday time on my phone.
Right.
They're going to say, I wish I spent time finding out, what's going on with the new job, and, what sports are you playing, or what colleges are you looking at, or, do you have a new friend, what's going on, tell me what's new, or creating games. Like, I love games. If you really are awkward and uncomfortable sitting at a dining table, create a game. 2 truths and a lie. Everybody's got to go around and tell 3 things, 2 truths, 1 lie. We got to figure out what the lie is, or anything like that. What's your favorite color?
Right.
If you could do anything in the world or go any place on vacation, where would you go?
Yeah.
And we try and guess it and figure out what it is. There's all kinds of fun things. Or you write something down about yourself that nobody knows, put it in a basket, somebody reads them out loud, you got to figure out who it is. But these are all social skills, like being developed, that will later on prove to be really, really helpful when it comes to talking to people that you don't know.
Yeah. I use the 2 truths and a lie with every day, every night at the dinner table with my kids, because that's how I get them to tell me about their day. Instead of going, hey, what did you do today? And then, I don't know. I say, give me 2 truths and a lie. We used to do, tell me 3 things, but then a friend of mine was also doing 2 truths and a lie, and they loved it.
Yes.
So kids love that. Just that's my own little aside here.
Right. Anytime you can make something fun,
yes.
It's a win.
Right. The kids get a big kick out of it.
Yes.
So parents will love it too.
Yes.
Before we move on to anything else, give us some reminders about sitting there at that dinner table. What are some manners and etiquette rules you think a lot of people forget, but we should be, no matter how comfortable we are with, if it's our family, I feel like this is a safe space then to practice some of those manners. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and put my elbows on the table for this conversation, but I tend to do it at dinner. At a restaurant, I'll lean in and I'll listen. What are some of those manners that we tend to forget?
Okay. Well, I think, all right, I'll teach you a couple of things just so you know. And you don't have to use them all, but if you use 1 or 2, that's actually great. The number 1 mistake people make at a table is poor posture. We sit with our face in the plate and we shovel food in because we're hungry. Whereas when you dine, if you're going to be dining, you sit up straight and bring food to your mouth. Now, you can lean in, but you can't curve. You can't put your face in the plate, all right? The first thing you do when you sit down at a table is you put your napkin on your lap. Always, always, always. I tell the young people it's a catcher's mitt. Because if you're sitting up straight bringing food to your mouth, there's a chance something might fall. And you do not want it going on the chair. You do not want it going on your pants or whatever you're wearing. So always put a napkin on your lap. You take portions that allow everybody to enjoy some. All right, here's how you set a table. And teach your kids, too, because it's actually kind of cute. Fork has 4 letters, F-O-R-K. So does left, L-E-F-T. Knife, spoon, 5 letters, so there's right, R-I-G-H-T.
Oh, wow. I never knew that.
So you always
way.
put your knife and your spoon on the right, and your fork goes on the left. We pass to the right, 1 full rotation, and before going to the left. So that means, because there's a synergy, and everything should go in the same direction when you're passing food. That way it's not going this way and that way, and someone's trying to get everything coming from different directions. So it allows everything to go in a full rotation. Okay, so B and D. Go like this. B, D. B is bread, D is drinks. These are all. This is always your bread plate. These are always your drinks. Because if you take the wrong one, you'll mess up the dynamics of the table. A bread plate is also a trash plate. So if you have a wrapper or a pit, always goes on your trash plate. So there's a couple things.
Yeah, that's great. Those are some things, like, I grew up setting the table, so I know, but I never thought about it with the letters. That's
Sure.
amazing. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about when you're the host, what kind of expectations to set so that there is no misunderstanding. So we'll be right back, more with Colleen Harding. Welcome back. We are talking about all of the manners and etiquette you should have surrounding the holidays, and it's a great time to teach your kids all of these life skills. I just read an article talking about all the life skills that our kids are lacking these days, and it's frightening. I have etiquette coach Colleen Harding with me today. And Colleen, we talked about being a guest. That's kind of what we focused on if anybody's just joining us before the break. So let's talk about being the host, because I feel like that's another perspective of how you're setting expectations and how you communicate details so that there is no misunderstanding, that there is a kind of heads off any possible tension, is the best way I can put it. So when you're a host, what are the type of details you think you should be communicating to your guests to have them understand what type of event it is and what they're expected?
Okay. Well, first of all, being a host is tough, and a lot of people don't like to do it because it's tough. It's a lot of work, and a lot of times it doesn't get appreciated, but it's really nice. Like, it's nice to have somebody that actually goes to the trouble to make sure that you gather. All right, managing expectations so that everybody has a good, a good experience is huge. So, that being said, it's very important that you introduce, what you're doing. I'm hosting Thanksgiving, and I would love for everybody to pick something they're going to bring. That would be really helpful. And we're going to start at this time, and we're going to start off with appetizers and things, and just kind of define what kind of agenda you're thinking of, appetizers from this time to this time, and then we're going to eat at this time, just in case somebody has to work in the afternoon, but they don't, and they want to know when you're going to start eating so that they don't come in and interrupt anything, and things like that. I am a big proponent of coming right out and saying in a very polite manner, we are a politics-free zone, especially at this time.
Yeah.
Because you do not want all this work to go to for nothing because somebody decides to have an extra glass of wine and tell everyone how they feel about the current state of the country and offend people. So it's very important that you tell people. So there's no miscommunication that this is not a place for you to come and platform and talk about, what makes you angry. I'd like to keep everything civil. I would like for everyone to leave and say, wow, that was so much fun. I'm so glad that we did that. And look forward to it for years to come.
Yeah, that's a great point. You also mentioned at the very beginning of this conversation, we dress up for holidays. And I feel like this is something that my friends and I always talk about, whether you're a dress-up family or a dress-down family. And sometimes those families mix. And so do you, as a host, say something about like we are dressing up or what to wear or no jeans or, how do you say something like that or do you just let people dress the way they like?
Well, I personally, because we like to get dressed up, I make it a joke kind of and say don't underdress because most people say don't overdress. Well, don't underdress because I think once a year you can put on a pair of dress pants and a pretty something and come to my house or throw on a jacket and a shirt and, that's our environment, though, and everybody kind of knows that. If you haven't defined, hey, I would like to step it up a little bit, you do need to actually mention it. So you can say it's business casual, or you could say it's casual, or you could say Christmas cocktail, that's another one, or business, there's all kinds of words you can use, and if someone goes, what does that mean? And it basically means no jeans, save your jeans for other holidays, save it for 4th of July or, whatever. Not Christmas and Thanksgiving. I want to see you dressed, showered and in a pretty something.
And I think that's great, too, if you're hosting any other holiday party other than your family. Right. I always wonder, what should I be wearing? Because I don't want to show up in jeans and then everybody else is all dressed up, or I don't want to dress in cocktail and then I show up and everybody's in jeans.
Right.
So it's always a great point.
Always dress up. Because then people think you always look your best. When you dress down and you miss the mark, they go, oh my, somebody wasn't thinking on that one. It's kind of like the little old ladies in church. When somebody comes in dressed inappropriately with a skirt that's too short or a neckline that's too low, and they're like, that's kind of, you don't want that kind of response when you walk in. Like, you want to be, fashionable, but you also don't want to be offensive.
I think that's also a great opportunity. Again, this is a great chance for us to show our kids dressing appropriately for each occasion. I know you and I have talked about that before with raising our own children. What is that conversation? How do you explain it to your kids? What's expected in certain situations to be dressed?
Well, I tell them to think outside themselves because you might wake up in the morning and go, I want to wear a a skirt that's shorter than some people's underpants, you know. But think about who's sitting across from you. You know, will that make them uncomfortable? So yes, you can wear those short skirts and those plummeting necklines when it's appropriate. But when you're sitting across from your grandmother or when a great aunt or somebody that was raised at a time when people didn't do that, once a year, you know, think outside yourself so that everyone can feel comfortable. I mean, there is a generation out there that actually grew up every Sunday afternoon having Sunday night or Sunday afternoon dinner or supper in the dining room wearing a tie and a jacket and a dress. Mm-hmm. So when they see you come in and you're wearing something that looks like you just got done clubbing, they don't understand. So you have to think outside yourself. Even though it's not our comfort place, we'd like to do what we want because that's kind of how we are. But but it will make you a better person in the long run because there are going to be environments where what you want is not going to fly. Mm-hmm. You know, whether you're interviewing for jobs or, you know, going to certain settings where somebody wouldn't appreciate that kind of attire. So you want to be a chameleon where you can, you know, change your colors and be versed in being able to try and wear different things to make others feel comfortable.
As the host, if those expectations are communicated but then not met, do you ever say anything?
No. Isn't that sad?
Yeah.
There is nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have a poker face, they're going to know. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's what they were setting out to do. I mean, if you are really clear about what kind of environment you're looking to create and then somebody deviates from that, they're sending a message. And the message is they don't care. Mm-hmm. They want to do what they want to do. So that's who they are. There's really, and you cannot point that out.
Is it polite enough to ask if the details aren't clear? Like if you get an invitation to a party and you want to know, can I bring kids or can I not bring kids? Like, is there a proper way to ask, you know, do you want me to bring a dish? Do you not want me to bring a dish? How do you respond to maybe that text or that email or that invitation with questions?
So if it's just for you personally, it's not in family, then usually it's not in family. So if somebody says, we'd like to invite Mr. and Mrs., or we'd like to invite Joe and Sue, or we'd like to invite, you know, the Hardings, you know, whatever, it kind of defines who is actually invited. If it's an adult party, you know, like, and it's not a kid party, a lot of times it specifies just the adults because they don't want to be drinking in front of kids. It sends a message that, you know, or people will be over drinking, like New Year's or something like that, and they don't want kids to be subjected to adults being overserved. So, yeah, so that's how you invite somebody. But then you have family friendly, if you would like to, you know, mocktails, you know, or whatever, and grape juice at 12 o'clock on New Year's Eve, absolutely.
One last quick question. We are flying through this. I have so many other questions, but when do you send that thank you note?
7 days. You've got 7 days from receiving the gift or gesture to send your thank you so much for having us. We thoroughly enjoyed ourselves.
You send this thank you note if you've attended a party? It's not just for a gift? Like
No,
what
it's
occasions?
For a gift. It's for
just
a gift or
Okay.
gesture. Yes. Now, if you've been to their home several times and you've, you know, written several notes, yes, you can start making phone calls and sending texts and say, "Thank you so much for having us. We had a great time." You know. But the first time you're going to someone's house, handwritten thank you note.
Oh, wow. Okay. See, that's what I needed to. What about corporate gift? Like if it's a business gift?
The only time you have more time is weddings, because you have up to a year to send a gift to a couple at a wedding. But you should send your thank you note within 7 days of a gift or gesture being received.
So if somebody gets a gift from a client or something like that, I'm just thinking in the business world too, just because there's, you know, some of our kids are adult kids that are now in the working world. Let's say there's a gift at work. Do you write a thank you note?
Well, if you got a gift because you did something for them, you don't send a thank you note.
Okay.
Yes. So I don't need to send a thank you note for your thank you. Like if I did something for you and you gave me a box of chocolates, I don't have to thank you for the box of chocolates. You were thanking me. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
It's a good question, though.
I know. And just really quick, I know we're running out of time. Manners during travel. Oh. Give us a reminder.
Okay, I just heard a thing on the radio about be kind at the airports. It's the heaviest time and people have been there for hours and hours, and there are people traveling and they're trying to get someplace. Be polite, be kind. I call it flightiquette. Use your flight etiquette. All right? Don't take up 2 seats. If you've got peanuts in your snacks, ask if the person next to you is allergic to them. Keep your shoes on. No one wants to smell your feet on the airplane. Think before you do things, and everybody will feel a lot better in the long run.
I love it. Colleen, thank you so much. This has been great. I hope everybody took notes on all of this. Thank you. And thanks to all of you for watching Parenting Playbook. You can catch all of our episodes streaming, and we'll see you back here next week.